Games Workshop officially revealed the leaked Space Marine last weekend. We've got a closer look at the new Deathwatch sprues. Prices are confirmed for the Kill Team releases this weekend, including a very expensive Tomb World box set. And it seems that Games Workshop passed over the Nova Open for another preview show. Time for a quick roundup of some 40k news things from over the past few days. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're doing a quick roundup of a few 40k news things. Small topics that I found interesting from over the past week, but maybe didn't really need a video entirely to themselves. As well as the stuff mentioned, it also looks like Target in the USA is now stopping Warhammer 40k things, and there's been an announcement and roadmap for some new content coming for Space Marine 2 over the next year. Lots to talk about, so let's jump straight in. First up, I was interested to cycle back to the prices for the Kill Team releases coming this weekend. As I talked about earlier in the week, it looks like it's another fairly big Warhammer 40k release. The Tomb World box set is coming out with the Necron's Terrain versus the new Deathwatch. I had seen previous speculation that the price would be $250 or £150. It does seem that that's what it's going to be. Obviously a fair bit higher than the majority of Kill Team box sets out there. I was planning on talking through the box set in a bit more detail tomorrow, going through the individual components and whether overall the box set's looking like a good deal or not. It did always seem like there was going to be more chance it would be expensive given the sort of Gallo 4 style terrain but done in Necron style, but I'll talk more about that in the video tomorrow. Otherwise, for the Kill Team releases, the Raveners look like they're $65, £42.50 or €55, and they look like they're going to be the most popular release of the weekend beyond the actual Tomb World box set. Lots of Tyranid collectors around, and the Typhon box set sold out quite quickly in a good number of locations around the world. I feel like the $65 or £42.50 maybe isn't terrible as Kill Team boxes go. Looks like they're on the lower end of the spectrum as opposed to the higher end, and they are a little bit cheaper than the Admech Servitor Battleclade. It seems that that one's $70 or £44, and it seems that they're a little bit more expensive due to the Techno-Archaeologist being packaged in the box set as well. Usually here's a character miniature that's sold individually, though I feel like if you're getting one of those, there's a pretty reasonable argument to pick up the Servitor Battleclade box set as that now. I guess it might not be the most helpful thing if you wanted to just get the new Servitor models and they're paying a slightly inflated price due to the Techno-Archaeologist. I guess you could potentially kitbash him into a Engine Seer or something else if you wanted though. Next up, I was interested to see the price on the Tyranid's Terrain. Looks like it's $65, £42.50 or €55 for the terrain set. This is the one that came out in Typhon. I'm quite fond to see some faction-specific terrain. It at least looks like it could be an online-only item, and if so, that means it wouldn't be available via discount retailers, so it would actually be that price and not getting the usual 15% off or so. Pretty cool to see some faction-specific terrain though that looks like it'll stick around for at least a while. Generally this was quite well received. Then finally, for the Kill Team releases, we've got the Orcs and the Sisters Novitiate. These are basically reboxes from previous Kill Team box sets that they had, and now they're being re-released in Warhammer 40k packaging, as part of Games Workshop cycling out the previous Kill Teams to their Legends versions for that game mode, to make way for their constant influx of new models and kits. I was wondering whether these guys might come with a slight price decrease as a result. They're not packaged with the Kill Team tokens and things, and for some reason they seem to charge an increased price due to that. It seems that the Commandos are going to be $65 or £42.50, a little cheaper than the $70 or £44 that they were before, and the Sisters Novitiate going down to $60 or £37, and again I believe that they were a little cheaper than they went away. I think they were $65 as well. Could be interesting enough for people wanting to pick up these ones. I did some channel polls as to the demand of the items. Looks like the Sisters Novitiate are the more in demand out of these two. It is quite a fun and flexible box set where you can kitbash a bunch of characters if you want to. As ever, if you were looking to pick up any of these, check out the channel's affiliate discount retailers linked down in the video description. Element Games in the UK, Gap Games in Australia, Toy Snowman or Fenris Workshop in Canada, Wargame Portal in the USA, and Taschengeldieb in Germany and the EU. These are the pre-order times where they'll be going live at the stores. Fingers crossed that Games Workshop's made enough of the Kill Team Tomb World box sets to satisfy demand, though if they do as they have done in the past then they probably won't have. In any case, a big thank you to anyone supporting the channel via those discount links. Next up, I was interested to cycle back to what might be happening at the Nova Open. When the evening thing got announced on their event page, it did sound like there probably wouldn't be a preview. Though perhaps the language used was a little bit nebulous. It seems that happened yesterday, and there's very much no online preview show to go alongside that, breaking a bit of a tradition with Games Workshop, who's typically had some big previews coming at the same time as this tournament. The promo thing that they had said more of an evening with Games Workshop, with a whole bunch of different things on offer. Things like Armies on Parade, a Space Marine 2 thing, some painting demo things, basically a whole load of small attractions that I'm sure would have some pretty good interest to 40k fans attending the event, but not really so much to people beyond that, such as any big model reveals of things yet to be released. I did think it probably was going to be the case when they had the initial announcement for this. It did feel almost like a bit of an apology event, trying to throw a whole bunch of things that might interest people at the event, maybe as a bit of an apology for not doing their usual preview offering that would often generate a lot of hype for a charitable tournament. Maybe plays into a bit of a wider trend of Games Workshop seeming to decouple their preview shows from events a little bit this year, at least over the last few of them. The last online preview that we had was that big summer preview one, and that was interestingly showcased at the same time as the Tacoma Open tournament, but didn't really have any sort of connection with it. So it sounds like they didn't decide to do a live event, and instead decided to do an online version primarily aimed at the wider internet. It does kind of beg the question as to when the next one's coming, and it seems like early October would probably be the next date to look at. Last year they had two, I believe one on the 5th of October, which was their Warhammer Day preview one, and then one on the 22nd of November, which was their World Champions preview. It's also maybe a little conspicuous that the Las Vegas Open's also been moved to early October. That's happening on the 2nd to the 5th. They've often done reveals associated with that event as well, and between that it feels like there's pretty good evidence that they'll have some reveals for us in early October, and I feel like it could be close enough that they could reveal things that are past Christmas and are a little bit further out. For Warhammer 40k possibilities and expectations, there's a bunch of stuff they haven't got round to yet that we'd expect to see before the end of the edition next year. The Drukhari Codex is the last unannounced one waiting in the wings that we know of. There's a good chance they show off the Christmas battle forces in this one if they don't do previously. There's a pretty good chance for more Space Marines, sort of the equivalent of the Strike Force Agastas or Shadow Spear box set that we've had in editions past. There's another Kill Team box set that we have coming between the Tomb World one and the Sisters vs Raptors one next year, and at some stage I guess we'd have the possibility of an end edition campaign, something similar to last time's Arcs of Omen. In any case, barring a few surprises, seems like we'll have a bit more of a wait before those turn up. Before we move on, I'll just give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor in Tabletop Stronghold, one option for magnetic carry cases out there. These ones made by Sam based in West Virginia in the USA, and they currently have a sale on for 25% off. Magnetic carry cases have generally been a popular way to transport 40k miniatures in recent times, the idea being to put magnets on the bases of your models, and that allows them to attach to magnetic surfaces within the cases, so you can basically store loads of miniatures already right next to each other without needing insulating foam. Tabletop Stronghold's take on these are the mag cases. These are really quite notably sturdy MDF boxes, very hard to break or damage when they're assembled, and then inside the boxes go different layers of steel sheets. You can slot them in at higher or lower levels depending on the height of the miniatures that you want to transport. On the front goes a clear acrylic sheet to protect the miniatures, but it means that you can still see what you're transporting and show off your handiwork when things are in storage. Broadly speaking, reviews and things I've seen on Reddit and elsewhere have tended to be pretty positive. Maybe being a touch heavier than some could be one downside, but broadly speaking they're pretty sturdy, practical and easy to use. They also do some MDF terrain which comes at a slight discount if you're buying the mag case, could be of interest to some of you potentially. But in any case, check them out, links down in the video description if you'd like to take a look over their stuff, and a big thank you to them for sponsoring this one. I'll talk through a couple of their cases at the end of the video. Next up, on Monday, Games Workshop gave us a closer look at the Deathwatch sprues. These are the new ones that are coming out at the weekend in Kill Team Tomb World, and basically answer a few questions as to what's on them and what's not, given that they've shown off a few of the dual build models but maybe not the entire set yet. Unfortunately, it does seem to confirm that the squad doesn't have a base wargear loadout. I feel like maybe it could have just made the unit feel a bit more unified if they'd had a standard bolt carbine or Deathwatch shotgun or something as a stock loadout for each guy, but it does seem like the loadouts that were revealed before are the only ones. So each guy out of the squad of 5 has the 2 distinct poses and the 2 wargear options. I feel like if it was a choice between having base loadouts and losing more of the fancy gear, it's probably better to keep more of the fancy gear than have cool Deathwatch toys go away like some of their unique ranged weapons, but at the same time it would have been quite nice to have some standard Deathwatch armed with bolters. It is one of their main things with their special issue ammunition. In any case, here are the full sprues. There's 3 sets of them. It does maybe still look like they're going to be some of the slightly more complicated Kill Team ones, with the legs all on one sprue for the most part, and then the other wargear choices on other ones, but it does look like, say, the Gravis ones are grouped together somewhat. I feel like at least a fair few of their Kill Team kits have been a bit of a pain to put together, just because of the sheer amount of options that might be hidden in unusual locations around the sprue. I did quite enjoy Games Workshop showing off some chapter-specific shoulder pads and heads as well, which was fun. It is another one of the Deathwatch main themes that they're drawn from all sorts of different chapters. And it seems that as well as a few of the big names here, they've got a whole manner of maybe slightly more notable successor chapters There's a Flesh Terror one, a Lamentor, a Red Scorpion, plus at least a few of them that I'd have to look up. Pretty cool to have some unique Games Workshop plastic bits for some lesser known Space Marines. On top of that, for the squad, as well as their helmed heads, they've got quite a few bear heads as well. Plenty of these are also pretty clearly aimed to be themed to certain chapters. There's a hooded Dark Angel and a presumably White Scars top knot. I'm not sure if that's a Blood Angel or maybe a Flesh Terror one on the bottom second from the left there. It looks like that one's got some fangs. Overall, a few more interesting details about the kit there. I do think it would have been really quite nice to include some base bolters, but maybe it might have limited some model poses and things. Let me know what your thoughts are on the miniatures down in the comments below. Next up, I was interested to hear reports of Target selling Warhammer 40k in the USA. I'm not from the USA myself, but to my understanding they're a big department store with a bunch of home goods, clothes, electronics, toys and a whole bunch of other things. In relation to Warhammer, they often feel like they're one of the places that gets these sort of intro game style things. Things like the Space Marine Combat Arena or that Dawn of War Onslaught game. It seems now though, if you search on Target in the USA, you can basically find the entire full range of Games Workshop items pretty much the entirety of the 40k back catalogue, plus really quite an extensive range of things like specialist games like say Legions Imperialis and friends, which feels like maybe a bit of a surprise shift to be able to buy those on the website for a department store. If you look at the fine print though, it looks like none of these are intended to actually be in stores, and the actual shipping and distribution of the items is handled by what they call their Target Plus partners. I clicked into a few of the items. It seems that they have their sales handled by various hobby stores in the USA. So say this little thing on the bottom right where it said that they're sold and shipped by War Battle Games. It certainly feels like a bit of an odd culture clash between Warhammer 40k models that you usually get in pretty dedicated hobby stores versus something quite a lot more mainstream. I guess it could be another option for picking stuff up in the USA. At least at a glance though, the top line discounts don't seem to be as good as going via the normal local gaming stores. The vast majority of the items aren't listed at 15% discounted. A whole bunch of them that I saw when looking at the items were somewhere between 5 and 10. So while it's an option, unless you have a special reason to shop there specifically, it doesn't look like the best place to buy versus elsewhere. Next up, Games Workshop confirmed the existence of the Black Library Space Marine that they seemed to accidentally leak the previous week. It seems they mistimed a social media post on their German Facebook page and gave us a look at Captain Ferren Areios earlier than planned. As a result, we've now got to look at him with some slightly better pictures. Though beyond that, they didn't really have huge amounts more to say about him. I guess it was fairly obvious what the miniature was and what he was doing there from the previous leak. He's a new named Ultramarines Captain miniature based on the one from the Dawn of Fire series. He's armed with a Thunderhammer and has a little servo skull taking some notes for him. A few other bits of chapter-specific heraldry. Looks like that shoulder pad's embossed and has an Ultramarine icon on his backpack, plus an all rather ostentatious 6th Company badge. You're not going to mistake which company he's in charge of. I don't think they're necessarily confirmed as much, but I'd guess that he'd be a limited edition one and gone Black Library model. Occasionally they've stuck around in the past, like Uriel Ventris for the 4th Company, though I feel like it's just unlikely that they expand the Ultramarines range with another captain that's a permanent edition. I'd guess his price tag will be somewhere in the region of £26, $42 or €34 or so. Perhaps the only small model updates that we got for him was a look of the back of the miniature and the fact that he's got a head swap. I guess you can see his shoulder badge a little bit more clearly, how that servo skull attaches and a few other bits. His helmeted head is quite a straightforward Primaris one though, nothing too exciting. In any case, as we knew before, he'll be releasing alongside the Master of Rights book, a standalone book that focuses on him, and apparently he'll be taking the fights to the Death Guard in the Plague Wars, so it will be a miniature time release to go with that. Finally, for the main things I wanted to mention, I saw that Space Marine 2 has had a big update listed. Basically, the developers laying out a roadmap for content for the game for the next year. It has been pretty cool to see the game be such a mainstream success for Warhammer 40k over the past year. Certainly feels like around September and October time we had lots of people jumping into the tabletop hobby as a result. It's fun to get a few sneak peeks as to what they've got planned coming for the game. There's been some official trailers and things out, but a few of the highlights that sounded fun were being able to play as a Hellbrute in a PvP mode, which is a pretty interesting idea. They're adding a few weapon options, including a Pyre Cannon, apparently associated with a new Marine class for the game, plus adding in a few new enemies such as a Mutalith Vortex Beast and some Chaos Spawn. I was kind of wondering whether or not they were deliberately holding off on the Mutalith Vortex Beast as a Thousand Suns unit that's maybe a little bit more Age of Sigmar in appearance, but does seem like it's making its way into the game to charge up some sorcery. Lastly, for another couple of teasers, here are the Rumour Engines from the past week. A rather finely wrought looking sickle that maybe looks like it's some sort of wizard or cultist type thing. I'd guess probably not 40k from the look of that. And then some sort of disturbing grub thing, Not sure if that's something Ash Waste related or something Nurglish, maybe something else entirely. At first impressions, I guess that neither of those are things for Warhammer 40k, but they have surprised us before. In any case though, let me know your takes on the topics covered down in the comments. What do you make of some new Sprue details, the prices for Kill Team Tomb World and things, and prospects for next preview shows later in the year? I look forward to hearing all your takes down in the comments. Finally, a big thank you to Tabletop Stronghold for sponsoring this one. If you did want to check out the cases that are currently on sale, this is the rough capacity of the trays within the boxes. And then they've got 3 different primary sizes of their mag cases, a mini one, medium one and large one. I'll put the prices of them here on the screen. The prices include shipping but don't necessarily include VAT or sales taxes if they apply where you are. I feel like the standard size one should be a good fit for plenty of 40k collections, and they all come with some magnets to attach to your miniatures bases. They have their competitive terrain set as well if you are in the market for some MDF stuff. In any case though, a big thank you to them for sponsoring this one. You can check them out, links down in the video description. Their sale's on till early September. I'll leave that there for now though. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming, with new ones out just about every day. If you'd like to support the channel and the videos I create, then I'll just mention Auspex Tactics has a Patreon page as well. That's linked in the video description and has a few advantages such as seeing certain videos early, occasional votes for what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you or you'd just like to help support, the link's down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.